include one or two that we're singing in the service. So that'll be today. I'm not sure exactly how many we're going to visit. I'm hoping for at least two, Bill and Betty. I think Pat is going to be here doing the finance thing after the service, so she won't be home. I guess that's enough for now. See if we're ready. Are we ready? Are we ready? We are ready.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Oh, I can hear myself. Good morning and welcome to the Treasure Coast Unitarian Universal Congregation in Stuart, Florida. Today is the 22nd and a few days before Christmas and Hanukkah 2024. I'm looking at Janet. Happy Hanukkah or Merry Christnukkah. There you go. That was from Janet. Isn't that cute? My name is Cindy Summers, and I am your worship associate today. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome people of all genders, identities, ethnicities, ages, and backgrounds. We are on YouTube also. To be put on our email list or to find out more information about us, go to our website at tcuuc.org. Note the email link to request our online. Please silence your cell phones. Visitors, if you're comfortable, please step up to the microphone and introduce yourselves. Announcement. See the printed order of service and the newsletter for all events and details. We will have a Christmas celebration service at 5 o'clock Christmas Eve. Carols, candles, and cookies. Bring cookies. Today we have coffee and cookies in our social hall after the service. Sign up in the greeting area for Carolyn Olish's World Religions and Personal Theology course. It will begin on January 9th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Zoom. Did I say Zoom? No, Zoom. I just said it. Okay. John Warren's Stubborn Band, 5 p.m. Friday, January 31st. Bring your own food, drink, friends, and neighbors. Donations, please. And a big thanks for those who helped with the service. Jackie Robbins for the music, our greeters, Kitty Rowell and Janet Grote, our ushers and our tech elf, Karina Poloni, and our tech support, Rachel Valentino, and our backup techs, Stan and Alistair Forrester. Our hospitality team today is Joanne Leone and Jackie Buckley. Our Reverend Bob MacDonald is in the pulpit today. Here is our prelude. Thank you, Jackie, as always. Now for our chalice lighting. May the light we know now kindle, inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. The opening words. One day, can I move this down? Oh, that's better. One day, an old man was walking along the beach when he noticed a little girl picking something up and gently throwing it into the ocean. Approaching the little girl, he asked, "What are you doing?" She said, "Throwing starfish back into the ocean. The surf is up and the tide is going out. If I don't throw them back, they will die." The old man said, "Don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach and hundreds of starfish? You can't make a difference." After listening politely, the little girl bent down and picked up another starfish and threw it back into the surf. Then, smiling at the old man, she said, "It made a difference to that one." And that's from Lauren Isley. Okay. Please stand up if you'd like to sing hymn number 244, "It Came Upon a Christmas Night." That would be 4 verses.
244, midnight. A midnight
244. 244.
We'll do a little intro so you know what key we're in. Go.
Thank you. And now our affirmation. Let us recite our affirmation, speaking the first verse and singing the second. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another.
Now, I'll mention again for the half of you who didn't get here at 10:30, that for those who are going caroling, we're going to meet at the back at 12 noon and go over our repertoire and then scoot out around 5 or 10 after. So you go to coffee hour and then come back at 12 noon to be ready for the caroling. We're probably going to go to 2 homes, and it should be a lot of fun. The fact that so many came late, I was thinking of giving you as a gift for this coming holiday a service beginning at 9:30.
I'll take that week off.
You'll catch it on Zoom or on YouTube. The responsive reading, 6:16, for So the Children Come, by this Sophia Lyon Foz. For so the children come, and so they have been coming. In the same way they come, the seed of man and woman. No angels herald their beginnings, no prophets predict their future courses. No wise men see a star to show where to find the babe that will save humankind. Yet each night a child is born is a holy night. Fathers and mothers sitting beside their children's cribs feel glory in the sight of a new life beginning. They ask, where and how will this new life end, or will it ever end? Each night a child is born is a holy night, a time for singing, a time for wondering, a time for worshiping. And now our matters of joy, sorrow, concern, we invite you to share yours and hope that you will know as you do that you are heard and supported. First of all, let me begin with my list. Bill Falk, whose sermon we'll hear this morning, is still in Palm City nursing home and rehab. His latest word is that he's likely to be there for a while, and he wants to be there for a while. So we would just wish him the best in his strengthening and healing. Bill is struggling. Geraldine also. Now, Pat Tosney is looking forward to surgery. I think she told me, if I understood her, that she's coming to do the financial stuff, but won't be here during the service. Yes. Right. So anyway, we wish her the best. That was also her way, I think, of telling me she won't be home for us to come and sing to her. So we might want to...
I told her we'd do her last, so she goes home, and then she's excited for us to sing to her, but we'll get to her last.
This is like the Bob and Tia portion of the joys and sorrows. Thank you. So, okay, that's good, I think. Also, sad to report, Deb Harris let me know that one of her canine family had to be put down this week, Zoe. So that's 2 Deb has lost in a short period of time. And Deb, like a lot of us pet lovers, have learned that love is forever doesn't just apply to humans. It applies to animals that we hold in our hearts as well. Now, please come to the mic and share any that you want. Remember, we ask that they be brief and personal. Pat.
I have to go first because I'm Pat Burt. I have to go first to keep it in the pet theme. My Benji coughed all night Monday and took him to the doctor the next day, and they x-rayed him for collapsing trachea, which he did not have. And 2 days after he started an antibiotic, no more coughing. Thank you, wherever you are.
Hi, David Blizzard. Joys and concerns. My joy is that I have a brother and sister and 2 sons. My concerns is that my brother and sister both have a serious ailment, and that one of my sons will be celebrating, if that's the right word, Christmas on his own. Time for contemplation. There you go.
The blinking lady.
Janet Grote here. With the convergence of Hanukkah and Christmas this year, it reminded me of the, I was talking to Shari, and it remembered the Hanukkah bush my very creative UU mother made when I was a teenager. For those of you Californians, it was a manzanita, which is an extremely sturdy, well, it turns into trees, turns into madrone trees. It's also not recommended to land on them while attempting to hang glide.
Florence.
I'm Florence Treacle. My joy is after the service today, I get to see my daughter, my grandson, and my great-granddaughter, who's a year old.
Wow.
I'm so happy.
The other sister of Judith and mine lives in Albuquerque. We visited her in the fall, and her partner, Beth, got very sick with COVID last week, and Susie came down with it too. And since Beth cannot take most medications, she really had a tough time. Susie's having a tough time, but it looks like they've turned the corner and they're coming out of it. So that was the sadness and the joy in one package. And to add on to what he said about Deb, Deb is just absolutely crushed, she says. She's just broken. This recent dog that died was Zoe, who was the great big, Great Pyrenees, who was so sweetest dog I've ever met, who was a therapy dog, went to all kinds of places. So she won't talk on the phone yet because she'll break down in tears. But if you have a thought for her, send her a text or a thought or something. Thank you.
This reminds me, way back, I got in trouble in one of my congregations by devoting more time to a child's announcement about a rabbit dying than a time I devoted to new parents introducing their newborn child. Why did I do that? Not that I prefer rabbits then or now, but it was so unusual. But I learned to be sure that pet announcements don't overwhelm. But pets are big to a lot of us, so we all understand when they're lost. They are family, and the loss is felt. Anyone else with a matter of joy or sorrow about a human or non-human to share? I'll just mention that my younger sister, Carol, 72, is having heart bypass surgery in a couple weeks in Troy, and we are all hoping for her best. And my the older of two sisters is learning about a mass that must be removed. So my sisters, both younger than me, are in these straits, and I wish for them the best. Anyone else? Then we move a stone for those we haven't mentioned out loud, but we all carry people that we are concerned about. The meditation is this number 621 by Margaret Gooding, Why Not a Star? I'll just read it for all of us. They told me that when Jesus was born, a star appeared in the heavens above the place where the young child lay. When I was very young, I had no trouble believing wondrous things. I believed in the star. It was a wonderful miracle, part of a long ago story, foretelling an uncommon life. They told me a supernova appeared in the heavens and in its dying burst of fire. When I was older and believed in science and reason, I believed the story of the star explained. But I found I was unwilling to give up the star, fitting symbol for the birth of one whose uncommon life has been long remembered. The star explained became the star understood for Jesus, for Buddha, for Zarathustra. Why not a star? Some bright star shines somewhere in the heavens each time a child is born. Who knows what it may foretell? Who knows what uncommon life may yet again unfold if we but give it a chance? Margaret Gooding. And now moments of silence. And now, Spirit of Life, 123, we hum a verse, we sing a verse, seated or standing, whichever we prefer. How many messages have you received from all over reminding you that this is the season of giving and inviting yours? I hate to sound like everybody else, but this is the season of giving, and we need yours. And I need 2 ushers right now to volunteer for duty. Here they be. Thank you. For you, those of you who don't know, Bill Falk, Dr. William Falk is a retired Maryland sociology professor and departmental leader up there. He and Geraldine have been down here since 2013. They came to church when I wasn't here, and they came after the service, and Enid Johnson met them and chatted with them. And she got on the phone with me and said, there's a couple from Maryland, University of Maryland, whom you got to go after. They missed the service, but here's the name and there's the university. I was able to look them up and have coffee with them before they left that week to go back. And since then, they haven't been able to get away from us. Most of the time they've been here, or much of the time, Bill has been the president of our board. So I was hoping to get him to do a seasonal sermon that I knew he had prepared. First of all, I was telling him, certainly from up here, in any way he could, a wheelchair or chair standing, however. Then he couldn't be here. I said, we'll bring the camera to your hospital room and you can give us the sermon and it'll be on YouTube and we'll watch it that way. But he's really weak in body and in voice, and I offered to simply read the sermon and he said thank you. So this is his sermon, and I would rather you were here giving it, Bill. But anyway, this is yours. We are entering that joyful time of year when gift giving and depression both get highlighted. I thought of the emphasis one usually finds at this time of year on family, celebration, gift giving, eating, and community, and also seeing car magnets and yard signs saying, "Keep Christ in Christmas." These fairly recent public proclamations have a long history, but again, in more recent years, have become part of a larger campaign, the War on Christmas. Knowing this, I really began to wonder about to what degree and in what ways someone took Christ out of Christmas. And that is what I want to talk about this morning. I will not try to enlist any of you in the Christian army called for in that famous hymn, "Onward Christian Soldiers," with its line about marching as to war. So no need to get ready for a battle, at least I hope not. But I will try to provide a little history on this war, including the roles played by Unitarians, people suited up for battle long ago. One other thing you should know, as I prepared today's talk, I Googled up a storm looking for helpful information. If you wonder how much interest there might be in my topic, well, it turns out a lot. If you type in war on Christmas, you get over 20 million results, Google. Type in keep Christ in Christmas, you get nearly 18 million results. You also discover how even high moral purpose is caught up in capitalism and commercialized. If you are still wondering about some Christmas gifts, you can buy Keep Christ in Christmas posters, refrigerator magnets, yard signs, bumper stickers, car magnets, cards, and t-shirts. This stuff wouldn't get produced if there wasn't interest in it, and I say a lot of interest. So now the main story, the wars on Christmas, a very brief history. There have been lots of skirmishes in the war on Christmas, including ones long ago. In England, the Puritan government of Oliver Cromwell banned Christmas celebrations. In Massachusetts, also at the time under Puritan rule, Christmas was banned from 1659 to 1681. And even with King James' intervention, Christmas did not become popular until the 1850s. George Washington and his troops crossed the Delaware on December 25, so not much celebrating on that day. And after the Revolutionary War, Christmas was not celebrated because it was too British. Maybe that's been the problem in my house with a British wife. Even today, some Christian fundamentalists condemn Christmas as a holiday with pagan origins based on the winter solstice. Although many contemporary commentators state that the war on Christmas started with Bill O'Reilly, to the degree that there has ever been such a war, the contemporary war started long before the advent of O'Reilly and Fox News. In the 1920s, Henry Ford felt that a war was being waged by Jews. I've lost my place. Don't look up anymore, Bob. So Henry Ford, asking in a speech how 10 Jewish students can abolish the mention of Christmas and Easter out of schools containing 3,000 Christian pupils, or more broadly, as Henry Ford said, how can 3 million Jews control the affairs of 100 million Americans? Again, this was Henry Ford writing nearly 100 years ago. In 1959, the John Birch Society published a pamphlet alerting the nation to an assault on Christmas. Who was carrying out the assault? The UN. I'm not kidding. The Birch Society argument was that the UN was calling for U.S. department stores to use UN symbols and emblems as Christmas decorations. Bill O'Reilly, in his book Culture Warrior, is almost always cited as the historical marker for the war in recent years. His book included a chapter titled The Battle for Christmas. There he documents many instances of school districts and city councils yielding to pressure from aggrieved parents, often represented by attorneys, demanding any holiday symbols and/or celebrations be essentially de-Christianized. In turn, retail stores, fearing similar legal problems, fell in line with Target, Walmart, and Kohl's as prominent examples. O'Reilly himself becomes a self-described martyr in this battle with the loathed by Fox viewers, New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, and other large metropolitan newspapers chastising him. But with his large audience, O'Reilly has many supporters. He writes that while many mainstream journalists and writers loathe him, I loathe many of them right back. His successors at Fox News all follow all this in the same vein. Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, all members of the Fox choir. As an aside, on one of her recent shows, Laura Ingraham accused President Biden of being too Christmassy. Too Christmassy. I'm sure that having a real Christian in the White House makes Christmas criticism a bit difficult. Now back to my main focus. While O'Reilly's book was published in 2005, the war rages on, sort of. It has definitely become an annual thing with considerable attention each holiday season, Christmas season, for the past decade. A couple of years ago, for example, an article in the Jackson, Mississippi newspaper ran a piece with this heading, "The War on Christmas Has Begun." This seems to have become as predictable as Christmas decorations in retail stores, along with Christmas music, movies, parades, trees, and eggnog. Like it or not, Santa Claus is coming to town. Oh, and one other factoid from the War on Christmas. Santa Claus is white. Jesus too. At least that's what former Fox News Megyn Kelly said in one of her commentaries, responding to an article published in Slate magazine a couple of years ago. She tried to retract the statement, saying it was said in jest. But then the idea of dreaming about a white Christmas was out there. What is crucial to know from all this, if you didn't already, is that there are a lot of Americans, millions, who feel that their religion is to some degree under attack. Gay marriage, women's rights, Black Lives Matter, being woke, these are all issues which, for some, challenge the views they hold near and dear. Donald Trump seems to have understood this better than many of us and mobilized these people into a more general war on the mainstream media, Washington elites, and the political class. I'm not saying I think he's entirely correct, but rather summarizing how some folks see themselves as victimized and our country as on the wrong track. This was true in 2016, and one gets the impression that is still true today, given the results of the 2020 and 2024 election. With Trump and most of his supporters, one gets a strong sense of us versus them. UUs, on the other hand, consider themselves to be nearly heroic in their commitment to the dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, peace and liberty and justice for all, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which it is a part. This should sound familiar to many of you. It's from the UU principles, which form the theological heart of our faith. I will bookend this by drawing from UU's living tradition, wherein we are challenged to seek knowledge and understanding from Jewish and Christian teachings. humanist teachings, and spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, along with words and deeds of prophetic men and women. In sum, a great breadth of inspiration with that's breadth with a D in it, breadth of inspiration, with no one tradition or paradigm necessarily holding sway over any other. Or phrased a bit differently, liberal religion. We are a welcoming congregation as an ideal, even if we fall short sometimes. So where does this place us in the war on Christmas? Here is what conservative writer and former Fox News contributor John Gibson has to say in his book, The War on Christmas. The large number of foot soldiers waging the war on Christmas is in fact made up mostly of liberal white Christians, some of whom may have Jewish-sounding names, Cohen, Horoshak, that could mislead readers to a dangerous and very unfair conclusion. Let's restate for the record. The wagers of this war are a cabal of secularists, so-called humanists, trial lawyers, cultural relativists, and liberal, guilt-racked Christians. Not just Jewish people. Muslims are not big players in the anti-Christian movement. Providing the legal muscle and pretzel logic to the anti-Christmas warriors are brand-name liberal institutions, such as the ACLU, the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, and the Americans for the Separation of Church and State. Some institutional backers of the war on Christmas are Christian churches, such as the Unitarians and the United Church of Christ, who celebrate Jesus' humanity and leave the room when discussion turns to his divinity. Now, I think that was all this Gibson. Back to Bill. So there you have it. You point. Now wait, this is a direction to me. You point at audience. You are guilty. Guilty warriors against Christmas, whether you know it or not. You are too. Or are we? In fact, what you should know is that UUs were at the forefront of making Christmas celebratory, again in the mid-1800s. Or as UU minister Nathan Dettering stated in his sermon title a few years ago, how Unitarians saved Christmas. The early Christian church did not celebrate Jesus' birth at all. In other words, there were no Christmas Eve services and no pageants and no ministers trying to make sense of it all. Only over centuries and only after these solstice feasts turned really wild and really out of control did Christians seek to offer an alternative, calling it Christ's Mass or Christmas. Another fact, nobody was as hard on Christmas as the Puritans, the folks who built the pews you are sitting in. Well, not you. Normal pews, who thought that Christmas wasn't biblical and Jesus wouldn't have approved of any birthday celebrations. They ordered shops to stay open on Christmas, banned holiday cakes and candles, and managed to have the Massachusetts Congress declare Christmas illegal from 1659 to 1681. Bah humbug. At last, some final facts to make us Unitarians feel good. Christmas as we know it didn't really get going until the mid-1800s, and that was largely because of one story, a Christmas carol written by Unitarian Charles Dickens. Another fact, how many of us have Christmas trees at home? Well, for that you thank Charles Fallon, minister of our Unitarian congregation in Lexington, Massachusetts. who introduced the idea of the Christmas tree to New England, this Fallen, a tradition that has German and pagan roots. And best of all, Unitarian James Pierpoint wrote Jingle Bells. Unitarians also composed the tunes, I heard the bells on Christmas Day, and it came upon a midnight clear. And who can forget the night before Christmas? Well, that too was written by a Unitarian. So did Unitarians save Christmas? I think so. End of Dettering's message. And if you think of Christmas traditions, especially decorating a tree, gift-giving, children's anticipation of Christmas morning, families gathering together, then we UUs played a big role in reinstituting these things. If you will, we helped to form what became the basis of Christmas as we now think of it. Not the commercial aspect, but the social one. The social one. Our sense of this is sharpened by its opposite, captured beautifully by Dr. Seuss with his The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. Are we Unitarians, maybe to some degree, a bunch of Grinches? Have we, over the long sweep of history since the mid-1800s, become less Christmassy in a traditional way and too accepting and promoting of celebrating non-traditional Christmas holidays? Here is what UU minister Miriam Naaman Sessions has said about this. Throughout history, there have been Grinches on both sides of the Christmas controversy. I'm sure the Unitarians felt a little Grinchy toward the Puritans for trying to ban Christmas, just as Bill O'Reilly feels Grinchy about nativity scenes being removed from public property. I think it is important to ask the broad question of what makes someone a Grinch. Conservative news pundits would have us believe it is anyone who attempts to lessen the Christ in Christmas or the cultural practices that have come to be associated with the holiday. Christmas music, lights, parties, decorations, gift-giving, the list goes on. However, I think it is important to define Grinch more broadly. Since Seuss's Grinch is often credited as being a critique of the consumerist aspects of the holiday season, readers can sometimes overlook the book's more important underlying theme, inclusiveness and the heart of community. Tolerance and a world community are principles Dr. Seuss promoted in much of his work, and these concepts resonate deeply with our UU principles. After all, the Grinch attempts to steal Christmas by taking all the presents, food, decorations, even the Yule log, but is still unable to stop Christmas from coming. Why was the Grinch unsuccessful? Because he misunderstood the who's reason for the season: family, community, and goodwill. I think the secret to enjoying the holidays is finding a way to make them your own, to create your own special rituals and traditions, and to take ownership of them. It seems only fitting to cite a Seussian rhyme. The true meaning of Christmas need be of no concern, for it is whatever we make it, each of us ourselves, to discern. I'm close to the end. Where does all this leave us with respect to keeping Christ in Christmas and the so-called war on Christmas? As with many things, it all depends on one's point of view. Mine as a sociologist leads me to this conclusion, citing my influence by Lewis Carroll in his Alice in Wonderland tome, Through the Looking Glass. Words mean what I choose them to mean, neither more nor less. One person's war may be another person's accommodating demographic and social change. It doesn't necessarily make one right and the other wrong. It simply means that they have different points of view. UUs are, more than most religions, comfortable with diverse points of view, even on occasion, conflicting ones. For them, in general, religious faith is organic, it is dynamic, it is not static, holding to one view only forevermore. Amen. But for many religious people of all kinds of faith, especially if one hears the words fundamental or orthodox, there is only one true way, theirs. For us as UUs, this is troublesome. When we were children within our own families, we accepted a view of the world as unchallenged, unquestioned. Our parents' view of the world was the view of the world. That is how we learned about the world and how we saw it, as they did. But as we got older, as we met other children and spent time in their homes, we discovered that not everything our family did squared with what other people did. They had one set of rules, we had another. They said grace before meals, we didn't. They were of one religion, we of another. Did this make them right and make them wrong and us right? No, it simply meant that we were learning that the social world is a complex place and understanding our place in it wasn't going to be easy. The early 20th century sociologist W.I. Thomas understood this well. He saw how people cognitively framed the worlds in which they lived, and knowing this, had their entire view of reality colored by it. Or as he put it, situations defined as real are real in their consequences. If you think it and believe it, you may act upon it. And you will often do this in ways that reaffirm over and over why your view is correct. So is there a war on Christmas, one in which Christ has been removed? Situations defined as real are real in their consequences. For people who believe this strongly, they find often in their news sources and opinions they hear expressed from their pulpits, as well as from relatives and friends, that yes, there is such a war. And not just on Christmas, but on Christians more generally. For us, I suspect a very different narrative can be constructed with a different conclusion reached. To play off a seasonal tune, do you hear what I hear? Let me return to Seuss's rhyme. The true meaning of Christmas need be of no concern, for it is whatever we make it, each of us ourselves to discern. Thank you, Bill. The hymn is 246. Three verses, O little town of Bethlehem. seated. And this is Bill's benediction, kind of a challenge. Get those chestnuts roasting by an open fire. Go in search of Jack Frost nipping at anyone's nose, or folks dressed up like Eskimos. Whether it comes upon a midnight clear, or do you hear what I hear? Whether merrily on high, or decking the hall with boughs of holly. See if you can hear the bells on Christmas Day, or jingle bells, or sleigh bells, or hark the herald angels sing. Whether in a one-horse open sleigh, or tucked in your bed with visions of sugar plums dancing through your head. Go tell it on a mountain, or have a silent night. Regardless, have yourself a merry little Christmas, or a happy Hanukkah, or joyful Kwanzaa, or Seinfeld influence Festivus. And whatever you wish to celebrate, however you wish to celebrate, oh yes, and may all your days be merry and bright. Now what's happening?
We were thinking of building bridges, which is around, but the green books are over there, and I made some copies, but I think we'll save it for perhaps next week if I can wake up, God willing. And we'll pass out the words, and lyrics, and the melody, and then you can all see where one comes into, blah, blah, blah. So in the meantime, since it's just really, that's just what New You's about, which is some great words and building bridges. Since it's going to be Hanukkah and Christmas the same day, I'm just going to do a little. I have a little dreidel. And even if you're not Jewish, you probably know this tune. So I'll just do it twice. And I have a little dreidel. I made it out of clay, and when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I will play. Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made it out of dreidel, and when it's dry, got it? Okay. All right, here we go. I Happy everything. Every day's a holiday, a holy day. So next week we'll, yeah, we'll pass these out ahead of